Hello, entrepreneurs, designers, digital nomads, and business gurus. Welcome to Circle Live, our internet talk show just for Squarespace Circle members. I'm Sam Z, one of your community managers.
And I'm Sarah G, your other community manager, and we are joined by Taylor Lagoy in the chat. Sam, today is a special day.
That's right, the tradition returns. In just a few minutes, we'll be bringing on Satu Pelkonen, Squarespace's brand design director, and just like we did last year, we'll be discussing our design trends for 2024. But to start with, Sarah.
Sam.
I have some questions for you.
Oh my gosh.
Really,
drum roll at home.
Really just one question. What design trend are you? You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Great. Let's start. So, first question. Oh, this is going to be like a magazine, like in the 90s. My mantra is go big or go home or keep it simple.
I saw that little mouse hover. You think you know. I'm going to go big or go home.
I kind of thought that. All
Yeah,
right.
okay, whatever you know me.
Reality is, this is the next question. Reality is overrated or beautiful?
I think beautiful. Would you have said that?
And your answer, no drum roll, is you are subtle nostalgia. The nostalgia train shows no signs of losing steam in 2024 as website visitors seek fresh updates to vintage elements such as hand-drawn illustrations and serif fonts. Do you feel like that is an accurate portrayal of your design trend for 2024 if you were a person?
I think so. I like visually love this trend. And being born in the year that I was born, which, you know, a woman never reveals her age, I feel like I'm on a generation cusp. And so having a nostalgia for a time that I wasn't really present in makes it kind of subtle. So subtle nostalgia feels fitting to who I am.
I feel that's true to you as well. Yeah, I feel like you just in the way that you dress. You wear bright pants, and you like mixing that with some of the more subtle elements. I mean, I think that it does actually play into who you are. I agree with it.
Sometimes I wear a sweatshirt over a turtleneck, and I feel like that's very 90s.
It definitely is. Yes. Yeah.
Just touch the 90s, but always trying to go back, you know. Okay, is it your turn?
It's my turn.
Okay.
I know you're excited for this because I actually haven't taken this yet.
Okay, neither had I. Okay. Whoa. Are you ready
I'm starting.
Are you ready to begin?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I am ready to begin.
Okay, and I am as well. Okay. Is your mantra go big or go home or keep it simple?
I'm pretty keep it simple kind of guy.
Okay. Would you say that you tend to romanticize the past?
I think I do. Yeah.
Am I allowed to weigh in on your answer?
Do you disagree?
No, I think you do.
I think I do romanticize the past. Yeah, I'm always talking about things that you have never heard of before.
That's why I would have said totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I made a reference to the Partridge Family before that I'm not sure that you got.
I know the Partridge Family.
Okay. Well, I romanticized it in a way that maybe you didn't appreciate.
Probably. Some things I think you say and they just like are over my head, period. Okay. Where would you turn for design inspiration? Ads from the 70s or zines from the 90s? And I feel proud of myself for knowing it's pronounced zine.
You should be very proud of yourself. But it's actually zine.
Is it?
No. So I want to say that I'm cool enough to know about ads from the 70s, but I really don't. And I think that I probably know much more about zines from the 90s. So I'm going to say zines from the 90s. What can I? Do you think that's the right answer for me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And here we are. You are analog. Analog design adds more dimension to your websites with retro-inspired lo-fi and textured elements, harkening back to the early internet and pre-internet eras.
Does this feel like you?
I think so. What do you think?
I think it definitely feels like you. Do you remember the pre-internet eras?
Yeah, sure. I was like below 10. I remember it was like you couldn't get anything done. You just had to trust yourself.
Yeah, it's not the same thing, but sometimes I think about what people did before clocks existed. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna record our talk show at" what time? There was no time.
Right.
And so I feel like those people probably would have picked analog too. Sorry, now we're going on a tangent. But anyways, I think you fit in and I think this is who you are as a person. And I feel like it's also how you dress. So it checks out.
This was a lot of fun. I think that if anybody, I think we should let everybody know that if you want to take this quiz, it's also available online. You can check out the full flowchart to see which design trend you are in the blog post that we just released. Taylor is going to share that link in the chat. Take the quiz, find out who you are, find out how you dress, have people judge your answers before you answer them. I think that's the whole fun of taking a quiz like this.
Yeah. Did you ever I can't list the magazines by name, but so many flowcharts. And then I feel like that's what that internet company, the one that we're all thinking of, that's like, oh, if you wear a jumpsuit, like based on the jumpsuit you would pick, this is what kind of cheese you are.
Right.
But this is better and much more scientific.
And applicable to the conversation that we're about to have today.
Yes, relevant to you as a designer.
I'm also really curious if people go through the flowchart that I'm curious what design trends people have picked out or get assigned. So at any time today during this show, you can go to the flowchart and let us know what you think you are. Or if you want to just go on vibes without a flowchart, that's also totally fine. But for right now, today's Circle Live is brought to you by the Circle Referral Payment Benefit with eligibility expansion to Rhode Island, Iowa, Nevada, and Kentucky. Even more Circle members are able to earn. You can earn $200 for referring a new annual commerce website or $300 for a new annual digital product pro plan. You can also earn by referring new annual Acuity scheduling subscriptions and new annual email campaign subscriptions. Fans of the CRPB say it is one of the easiest partner programs you can sign up for. You can start earning commissions by talking to your clients about the Squarespace products that can help grow their businesses right now. To sign up for the Circle Referral Payment Benefit right now and start working towards the 4 subscription unlock threshold, visit the support link in the chat. And we've got I think Ariana put that comment back up on the screen. We've got a comment from Sayer, which is subtle nostalgia. It fits. Everyone says I was born in the wrong generation and have an old soul should I so I'm going to run with it. LOL. Definitely connect with that. I also have an old soul. Yes. I feel like that could be another name for analog as well. I think a number of these are kind of like old soul-ish, wouldn't you say?
Yes, yeah. I love that. Okay, Design Trend 2025. We have some others.
Yeah.
People weigh in with their results.
Another person, I think Haley is saying minimalism revival. A little spoiler alert for one of the ones that we're going to be talking about later, although it's not really a spoiler because everybody can see it. But minimalism revival is interesting. I know we're going to talk about this much more because, Squarespace is very traditionally a minimalist organization. We do a lot of minimalism.
Yes. Growing up, I thought I wanted to be a minimalist. I watched that documentary and I was like, I could do it, but those people only own like 40 belongings. And I already have this Squarespace Circle Live t-shirt. So now I only have room for 39 others.
Right. And once you have too many minimalist t-shirts, is it really minimalism?
Yes, exactly.
At what point does minimalism become maximalism? Big questions for today. Well, we're going to move on to the person who actually will be able to answer some of these questions. Let's bring in Satu. What do you think, Sarah?
Let's do it.
Satu Pelkonen is a brand and design director with a focus on art direction, graphic design, branding, and digital products. Currently working as the director of brand design at Squarespace in New York City. You've seen her work on the Squarespace Singularity Super Bowl ad, the Everything to Sell Anything campaign, and the A24.com rebrand. Very cool. Satu, welcome to Circle Live.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
So delighted to have you here. So, just really quick before we get into these design trends, I wanted to ask a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah,
You got your start designing in print, isn't that right?
that is right. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I'm a director of brand design here, but actually started my career, gosh, 18 years ago in working in print and magazines, but have done anything from advertising agencies to digital agencies to branding studios and all that fun stuff. But yeah, now I get to lead our amazing in-house design team here at Squarespace.
Do you ever miss working in print?
I do. I do a lot. Sometimes we get to do it here at Squarespace, which, brings me immense joy, but not as much as I would like to, though I still feel like print's not going anywhere. But yeah, unfortunately, more rarely nowadays, but I do still miss it.
Definitely. Well, we're going to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about your print opinions on some of these design trends that we're going to be talking about. So let's talk about these design trends. Um, how did you and your team decide on these 5? What was the process like?
I mean, so my team works on various different kinds of projects throughout the year. And, as we do research into those projects, you kind of see certain topics come up more and more. And, obviously there's more than these 5 trends that are up and coming, but we thought these were kind of the most interesting ones that we've seen a lot. And I think they're going to be really big next year.
I think you're right. So let's get right into them. Let's look into the future, get out your crystal balls. We have before us your team's predictions for the 5 design trends. And wait a second, give me just a second to pull this back up because it's somehow lost on my screen. But the first one we'll talk about, I'll let you cover this, Sarah, and then I'll bring it up on the screen once I get it. Is AI. Sarah, you want to start with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sam. Um, Satu, your first design trend from the team is artificial intelligence. And we started to see AI everywhere across the internet and also within the Squarespace product this year. What are some of the design implications of something that feels so new, and how should designers respond to this?
I mean, I think AI is really interesting, and obviously everyone is talking about it right now. How I see it, what it means for design is, I think it's just going to be another tool for help designers and creatives spend more time doing what they're good at, being creative, and spend less time, searching for the perfect reference image for your mood board or writing copy for your website. So I'm not sure if AI is gonna take over and we're gonna be ruled by robots in the future, but I do think it's gonna make these sort of like mundane tasks a lot easier and faster for everyone.
Yeah, and there's also there's not just the functionality of or what it means to designers on a functional level, but I also think that there's things like we're seeing up on the screen, like the plus sign or the lightning bolt, things that's and like even just the way that some AI images look. I think people. I don't know if you feel this way, Satu, but I feel like I almost know an AI image when I look at it. There's like almost a design to AI generated images, right?
Yeah, I agree. There tends to be, and I'm sure it's gonna change as AI develops and learns more and more. Um, but yeah, there's definitely still a certain look and feel, especially like images, and even content. It still feels almost like a robot wrote it because a robot did write it. Um, so yeah, but I do think in the future you're going to see the difference less and less, which might be a little scary, but I don't know. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah. And what I think is also so interesting with AI and kind of going off what you're saying, Sam, about the way it's being portrayed is, whenever you see an opportunity to use AI, it's represented by like a lightning bolt or a magic wand or a little sparkle and this like, oh, AI is magic. And it makes me
Yeah.
think like, um, when did other technologies once feel like magic? And will we get to a point where it doesn't feel like AI is this like thing that has just appeared out of nowhere, seemingly like magic. It just like is a part of our tech and design stack.
I know. I think it's because AI is so new, and it for a lot of us, including myself, it kind of seems like magic, but I think more time goes on and AI develops, it probably is going to feel less and less so. But I do think these like lightning bolts and the little magic wand icon that you see people, it kind of portrays AI really well.
Let's move on to our next trend. And by the way, audience, if you have any questions about any of these, we will be having a more formal Q&A at the end of this. But feel free to put your questions into the chat at any point during today. Subtle nostalgia is the second design trend, something that is very near and dear to my co-host's heart. But we're looking at things like serif fonts and hand-drawn or seemingly hand-drawn images. What do you think, especially with your background in print, does that help you appreciate this trend a little bit more, Satu?
I mean, absolutely. Like I said, I started my career print, so I feel like I'll always have that love for it. And I still love reading a magazine and reading a physical book. So I definitely have a lot of love for those like subtle colors, beautiful serif fonts and that golden age of print. And I think subtle nostalgia feels kind of like a new take on it with a little bit of a modern twist, which is nice, and I really like this one.
Definitely. I mean, do you, and I think it's conceivable that at some point AI can start to help out with this. I mean, I've heard that there are designers who will want something that looks hand drawn, which maybe is more challenging for AI to do, but they'll have like a big bulk of it, whatever they can get done through AI, and then they will add some small part of it, or the part that they want to hand draw on their iPad or whatever, they will add to it and sort of add little flourishes to it. So maybe there's a way for the trends to be working together as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like AI is only going to get better and better, and I've used it in a similar way. I've asked AI to create me something, and then I'm like, oh, this isn't perfect, but I can take that reference and use it kind of to make my creative process a little easier and faster. So yeah, I think we're going to see that more and more. People, these kind of trends combining as well.
I think what makes subtle nostalgia so interesting too is that it clearly is elements we've seen in the past, but because it's now a trend, it feels trendy. And like I look at this and I'm like, I can tell that this harkens back to stuff, but also I know so many brands now that are using this that it's like this feels like the cutting edge. Just feels like such an interesting tension like between those two things. I don't know how we kind of like reckon with that. It just feels like we're continually seeing the same trends appear over and over again.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what happens. Things pop back from the past all the time.
Is there truth to, what is it, they say 20 years that a trend comes back?
I've heard that.
I feel that has to be true. I mean, I've been in this field for 18, so I feel like things when I started my career are coming back now, and it makes me feel old.
Yeah, that and like a wide leg jean.
Oh God,
yeah.
Don't get me started on those.
I'll have to have part 2 talking about fashion trends.
Yeah, so funny.
But I think one thing to point out about this too, and just in the blog post, I think is worded really well, is that it's grounded in human connection. So whether you use AI or not, whether you're actually able to do your own hand drawings or not, or whatever, it's important that you're thinking about these trends, all of them, but specifically subtle nostalgia, as a sense of familiarity towards human connection. You're trying to connect with somebody. The graphic on the screen is like showing you how these images interplay with each other, and it's kind of there's the little guy with the little eyes and everything like that. That's like we're trying to connect with somebody here, right? Would you say that human connection is a huge part of how you think about your work, Satu, in brand design?
I think so. I mean, it's important. Everything that we do in marketing in general, it is geared towards humans. So I think there always has to be that human touch to everything that you do. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's take the next one. So you want to take the next trend?
Yes. So we're going to move on to hyper reality. Satu, in your opinion, how is hyper reality different from reality?
That's a great question. I think 3D is probably the perfect example of like what hyper reality like is to me at least. You see 3D a lot more in web design now, and you can create these visuals and worlds that feel very realistic but are actually impossible to create in the real world. So it's to me it's kind of this world that feels real but actually isn't. And I don't know, it's been really cool to see how 3D is implemented more and more in web design because the technology allows that, and like metaverse is now a thing. So it's a very interesting trend to me.
I think the metaverse thing is I think that was one of our trends
Last
last year, wasn't it? And it's so interesting now that like we didn't quite get, I think, in this year to what we thought the metaverse was going to be in maybe the commercial sense. And so we've like pared back a little bit, it feels like, to what hyper reality is now, which is like grounded in the present and kind of in that connection, but then just like a touch in that direction, but we've pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, my read on that is that the metaverse was such a buzzy thing,
Mm.
and it felt like at some point, I think people started to feel suspicious of it, and with the way that people talk about, the uncanny valley. Hyper reality, though, and maybe it's just a branding thing, but hyper reality to me feels much more digestible. Like I don't
Mhm.
think anybody is trying to force me into a different reality. It feels like with this, they're just offering me an emphasis on a different style or a different way of looking at reality. What do you think, Satu?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like I said, like you guys mentioned, like metaverse isn't as big as it is, but these like 3D objects and all these things that you see nowadays on web design are kind of an interesting take on it. It's like you said, a little step back, but still feels this like almost like a surreal kind of world, but still grounded in reality to a degree.
It reminds me a little bit of the way that, like, on social media, we've seen people, like, aspire to the life of influencers. Like, this idea of, like, this is what it could be, and it can be really, I mean, all of the, like, hyper reality sides, they're, like, beautiful and color and like, just shiny and, like, "Come here, come play," and, like, that's what I feel like we've been served for the last few years on social media. So, it's interesting to see, again, that kind of, like, human side paired with the design side of, like, a little bit of escapism maybe, after a bunch of hard years too.
Definitely, yeah. No, I like the word escapist. I think that it does definitely feels that way, and it's not, again, it's not as if you're disappearing into something else. It's like
Mhm.
you're on vacation.
Mhm, mhm. Love that.
I love that.
All right. So many good trends. Let's find out about this next one that is near and dear to my heart. This is what I got in our little design trends quiz. Analog. Um, what's the difference, Satu, between analog and subtle nostalgia?
For me, analog feels like, the early days of the internet or even like pre-digital era when things were more lo-fi, you mentioned zines, zines were cool at that time, really kind of leaning into that look and feel using like textures and retro fonts. Whereas, like I said, subtle nostalgia feels kind of like a look back to our past decades and that print era, but with a modern twist. Yeah.
I think that the modern twist is an important part of analog, that we're looking at least with the graphic on the screen, it feels like we're looking at something that's from the past, but it's also very much with a present focus. Like those textures that you're seeing are sort of are grainy in a way that feels like 2024 1984 as well, like as well as they are also like 1989 or something. And the term like lo-fi finishes, I think, is really kind of like puts this into a good perspective for me. Is like it's you're not it's not always the front and center thing. It's sometimes just a little bit on the edges. It's a little bit of a flourish to make something hi-fi actually seem a little lo-fi.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think all these trends, especially like things that are coming back, they all have a little bit of a modern twist. Like you look into the past and take inspiration from there, but they all have a bit of a tweak and a modern twist. So no, they're not exactly what they necessarily were back then.
Mm. Well, and I think what makes analog in particular very interesting is everything that we're seeing in analog in some ways, like, especially when like the lo-fi one, like, it had to exist in that format because there was nothing else, but now we can choose to make it look like this with the broad suite of design tools that we now have available, whereas I feel like with subtle nostalgia, like, there already was a larger palette and design resources available to achieve the things that were part of subtle nostalgia, whereas analog was like, we didn't have a choice, that's why it looked like this. So it's kind of, like, ironic to see it come back now so high tech and like digitized.
Yeah.
When that was really not what it was when it first existed. I mean, pre me, but my understanding is.
I also like in the blog post that it highlights that this is a departure from the cold minimalistic designs that have dominated in recent years. There's definitely a warmth to analog that maybe could be used in counterpoint to minimalism or complement to minimalism or completely replace minimalism. If a client is coming saying like, this is too minimalist for me, this might be something to try.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we have time for, we're ready to go to our last one?
Ready to go to our last one. You want to take us home with these design trends, Sarah?
Yes, I do. All right, last design trend that we have is the minimalism revival. I don't really feel like we were left minimalism here at Squarespace, but we love minimalism at Squarespace. Why would someone outside of Squarespace choose minimalism, Satu?
I mean, I think minimalism will never go out of style. I mean, I am Scandinavian after all, and born in Finland with Scandinavian sleek design, but maybe it's even wrong to call it a trend. I see minimalism as kind of this like it's like the classic elegant thing that you can always do, and it's never the wrong choice. But it really reminds me of, being back in school where my art teachers were telling us, how can you build a composition or a layout with the most minimal amount of elements and, using a lot of negative space, removing anything unnecessary and focusing on the key elements and managing to make that beautiful. And I mean, I personally really love that challenge, and this would definitely be my trend. But again, I work at Squarespace, so that's not a surprise. But yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like is just never going out of style and is always here to stay.
But I think that there's the reason to me that minimalism is something Squarespace focuses on is that it gives a really great foundation. So, Satu, you're in the office right now, and a lot of people maybe wouldn't know what the entire office looks like if they've been to Circle Day. They probably understand that, like, walking in, the first thing you see, some artwork on the wall, but mostly like black walls. A lot of the walls are just like black and white, black and white, black and white. But you happen to be in a room on the creative floor, which is sort of covered with these dare I say, analog flourishes. There's like behind you, there's like an award. There's all kinds of books. Are we calling books analog? Yeah, books are analog. There's just books everywhere, and I think that kind of is a good example of how in real space these things can be applied. These ideas can be applied. That like having a foundation of minimalism, maybe. To add onto, maybe to think about that. At the very least, you have a good sense and a good minimalism is a good thing to start with, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a good sort of baseline. I mean, there's a reason why galleries are all typically white. You let the content show, and like that's the hero. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And I think, to your point, Sam, as well, like Squarespace as a platform is minimal. We give you the option to literally start with a blank template because we know that, especially for the designers that are in our circle community, that they're the ones that are going to go and add the beauty and like the robustness of the website design on top of that. And so I think someone said something about why Catherine said that she chose Squarespace 10 years ago because of the minimalism. And I think that that's really what makes Squarespace stand out as a platform, is how sleek it is, both in our office and on our platform.
Definitely. It's interesting to think that minimalism can make you stand out.
Agreed.
Interesting. All right, audience, now it's your turn. I've been seeing a few questions coming in through the chat, but we are going to take a little bit of a break for just a second and get out a little bit of an announcement. And then when we come back, we will have Satu again to answer your questions. So we're going to say goodbye to Satu just briefly. Well, I give you this very short promotional message. Circle events, like the one you're attending right now, are where you can listen, learn, and meet other Circle members. And starting in January, you'll be able to work together. Starting out our full year of programming on January 4th, we're offering a new kind of Circle event. We're calling it the Circle Workout. No, you don't have to bring your exercise clothes. Circle Workout is an online working session where everyone will join with their videos on, mics off, and buckle down to get their work done. I've done so many of these run by others, and trust me, it's the most productive hour you'll have all week, especially with us there and other Circle members. It just seems so simple, and it really is. You don't even have to register for it. We're going to make it super simple. We're going to share a calendar link in the chat right now, and get that on your calendar. And on the day, just show up. I'm looking forward to our very first Circle workout. Sarah, you've done a few of these in other places as well.
Yes.
They're pretty productive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think for me, what has made the time most valuable is setting an intention at the beginning, because I'm someone who can easily be like, okay, I'm working on this thing. Oh, but I just got a new email, and then someone sent me a message, and then I remember this thing that I had to do yesterday, and like saying, okay, I'm going to sit down for an hour and get this thing done. Really, I feel like allows me to like get so much more done in a day.
Definitely. We will be setting intentions a lot during that session, or at least twice.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Looking forward to seeing everyone online for that. We are going to bring back Satu, and we're going to start with our first question we have here from Catherine. What AI websites have been your favorite to use for this? Satu, any thoughts on AI websites? What things you've been using? We have Squarespace AI. There's lots of different types of AI that people can be exploring. What's a good way to start exploring AI?
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of depends. What do you need? Do you need content? Do you need images? I personally, being a designer and being a visual person, I really love Midjourney. And the first time I used that, it was pretty impressive to see what comes out of that thing. But my team actually uses it a lot for finding like reference images and mood boards, because sometimes it's really hard to conceptualize visual ideas. So either we do sketches, but Midjourney has been an interesting tool that we've been using kind of as on the background, but not for any marketing purposes, but just for our own sort of like mood board building purposes.
Love it. Good for mood boards, good for getting a sense of what's out there. This next question from Miranda was more of just a comment. Love Squarespace for prioritizing of minimalist details and function. Here's another interesting one from Berg Bor. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that name. Please let me know if I am. But it feels to me that subtle nostalgia has been quite trendy for at least a couple years now. Is there a difference to how it's being defined this time around?
I think it's that, like what I mentioned before, that like modern twist that you kind of give to subtle nostalgia. Like it is still, big fonts and serif fonts have been very trendy in web design specifically the past couple years. But I think it's just like giving that a bit of a more of a modern twist, and even a more of a look back to that like print era where layouts were maybe a bit more interesting.
Print layouts, and yeah, again, like I think it's always about offering your personal take on things. So with all of these trends, and I think we said this last year too, with all these trends, there are suggestions to help you be more creative. It's not about us trying to tell you what you need to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, you want to take this one from Christy?
Yes. Can we expect some new templates coming with some of these styles?
That's a great question. I really, really hope we can make some of these happen. Can't reveal anything yet, but yeah.
This also feels like a good moment to plug Blueprint, though, which I think we've talked about on the show before.
We did a Blueprint demo a while ago.
Yeah. If you don't know about Blueprint yet, if you go to the template store, you should, I don't know what the CTA button is, but I don't know, build a template.
I think if you just go to the template store and you want to build your own template, yeah.
The option should pop up for you. You can kind of click through different options and build a template that kind of resembles any one of these styles. It's a good starting point, I think.
Definitely. Speaking of which, this is sort of a similar answer. Sylvia asks, how can I find more about Squarespace AI? Taylor, in the chat, if you have a second to look up, I think there's a help article about it somewhere, and share that. But what I'll say is it's actually pretty easy to just implement on your own and play around with without a help article. So if you have a Squarespace website already, create a new page as like a sandbox that nobody can see. And if you add a text box, you'll see the little, I believe it's a lightning bolt over on the left-hand side, and that is how you interact with Squarespace AI. It's really fun. You can talk to it. You can have it, make a request for the kind of copy that you want. Write me a paragraph about my cat, and give information about your cat, I suppose, so that it knows what to write about. And then you can also say to it, hey, this paragraph is too long. Can you shorten it? And it will do that. So it's a really, really fun feature. Satu, have you played around a little bit with Squarespace AI? I'm sure that you were involved somehow in the thinking of it.
Oh, 100%. I'm not a great writer myself, so I use it every opportunity I get.
Thank you for your honesty on the show.
Yeah.
The answer is no one's a great writer. We're all just doing AI now. That's what everyone does. Yeah.
Yikes.
AI is the only writer. Hot take. All right. Speaking of hot takes, Sarah, you want to take this next one?
Yes. Hillary says, have you noticed a trend with mobile layouts on desktops?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you see more and more now people opt in to use a hamburger nav on their site instead of sort of like a regular or normal desktop nav. So definitely it's been a trend more and more so. And, like mobile layouts often have bigger typography, and that's definitely been a trend on desktop designs as well. So yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Hillary found the bonus sixth trend.
Hillary, thank you for your question. Thanks everyone for your questions. Satu, I want to end before we say goodbye to you with another question. If it's all right with you, would you be willing to take our design trends quiz?
Absolutely. I already know what I'm going to be, but...
You already know do you want to just announce live, or do you want to go through the rigmarole of taking the quiz?
Let's go through the quiz.
Rigmarole.
That way.
Okay. What design trend are you? The question is, what is your mantra, Satu? Is it go big or go home, or is it keep it simple?
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Do you, I tend to romanticize the past, nah or totally?
No, not really.
Nah. Sounds like you are minimalism revival. New takes on clean, classic aesthetics are on the horizon in 2024 with minimalistic chaos, eco design, and bright minimalism. Congratulations.
Love it. We all
Was
got
that
to-
what you expected?
It was what I expected.
Okay.
We
Then
all
we
got to
know
show
it's a
up.
good quiz.
It's great.
Satu, thank you so much for coming on Circle Live. We will see you around the office.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
Such a fun convo. I look forward to it every year. And speaking of which, Sarah, I have a surprise for you. So today is full of surprises. You may not remember, but this is actually a show, Circle Live, that we have been doing for a year now. Our first show was last December, and you can't even really see. I guess I'll have to get closer to the cameras, but these are tiny. I got tiny little cupcakes for us to eat in celebration of our 1-year anniversary. So cheers to 1 year's being on the airwaves.
Oh my gosh. And thank you, Sam, for having me. And to our loyal Circle Live fans for tuning in every episode and enabling us to do what we do. I'm speechless. Thank you for this tiny cupcake.
You're welcome. Thank you for being my loyal companion. Thanks to everyone in the audience for being here and asking such great questions. Can't wait to get started into a new year.
So I don't
Just take
want
a.
to. I don't want to chew into the microphone. Someone said we have such good audio today. I don't want to ruin that.
No, you're right.
Feel like
you're
I'm
right.
not tuning into the show again.
I'm also covering myself in chocolate. That's why I got them.
Worth it.
That's why I got small ones. What a year. What a year it's been. So everyone, that is all for today's show. Thank you again for joining us live this whole year and also for today. Until next Circle Live, I'm Sam C.
And I'm Sarah G.
Wishing you a happy new year and reminding you that not all carousels have horses. Some have photos and videos.
Best one yet. Bye, everybody.